My teen romantic comedy snafu saved my life. It aired the perfect time in my life to rewire my brain from the depths of depression into a human being who tried to seek something genuine. But that was over a decade ago, and despite dozens of pages of writing, I've never been able to adequately talk about how much this series means to me. It's such a profoundly personal series that to dig into it requires going back into my past and re-engaging with memories that feel so distant from my current self, but are also so keenly interconnected with the growth I've had as a human being since. I've deeply connected to almost every major character in the story at some point in my life. The various facets of them have shaped me into who I am today, but to truly understand this requires going back in time. Thankfully, I have numerous pieces of writing on the series to refer back to. I can tell you my story through the anime that saved my life. Unfortunately, I was not writing during its airing, so most of my experience will be retold first before I can show you how I grew up because of it. It wasn't until my high school English teacher complimented my writing that I began to write about the series in earnest. Once that happened, writing became my outlet to tell my story. It became dozens and dozens of pages of Oregairu essays that exist in so many different places. But I must begin my story somewhere, so allow me to give you a very succinct example of how things were in high school. I wrote my college application essay about how much I connected with Hikigaya Hachiman. This essay is unfortunately lost media, as much as I really wish it wasn't, because God, what I wouldn't give to read that. But it is an apt comparison to some degree. To quote myself, "Able to be happy being alone. I never actually wanted to be alone." I felt like a less cynical Hachiman. I didn't loathe high school, but I hated the suffering isolation. The key word there being isolation. I had people I would call friends in high school, but that's a word I struggled to truly accept. I felt this way for a lot of my life, but to varying degrees. As college went on and I became more secure in my friendships, it faded away, but I struggled a lot with feeling like I was an extra friend, like all my friends were closer to each other than with me. During high school and early college. This distrust in my relationships undoubtedly came from two major incidents in my high school career, and this is where I always scrapped the writing. This is where piles and piles of essays have gone to die. Countless attempts to transcribe the events, but end there. I pen the story, but don't engage with it. Until I did in college. I was tasked writing a creative nonfiction piece and had to retell the stories as they happened. Granted, this was not a forced assignment. I chose to write about these specific events, but it still comes with hazy moments. I didn't earnestly engage with it until college when the specific words faded, but the emotions still ran through me. I often just tell the story as a narrator, listing events as they happen, with the key moments piercing through, the trauma lingering more than the moment, but they are required moments in the grand narrative of getting to the point where I felt like Hachiman and I were one and the same. I had 3 major friend groups in high school. The first 2 ended poorly, but the third disappeared due to college kind of just sweeping it away as that happens. The first one planted the seed of my distrust in relationships. It planted the seed that nothing was genuine. I will be the first to say, I was a very awkward kid growing up. I never had a consistent friend group, so I never had a frame of reference for how to act. And after very poorly fumbling my first hangout, I was never invited to another one. But I didn't know this at the time. I was naive to the cruelty of high school relationships. But as I was asked to leave the group due to presumably still being very socially awkward and unaware, this escapes from my memory. I learned later that I was excluded from future events because of that first one, which in turn made me question the whole thing, but I'm going to put a pin in that and also just chalk it up to high schoolers being high schoolers. It still did damage, but that'll still make a return later after I get to friend group 2. With the benefit of hindsight, I have genuinely no idea why I was in the second friend group. I was just set dressing off to the side with the other people who existed solely to be scapegoats for the unholy food concoctions they would create and abandon soon after for the hallways. But in the moment, it took a truly special moment to finally make me wise up to this indifference. After these concoctions happened time and time again, a teacher finally snapped, and the fringe members were exposed for their true place in this group. Despite moving to a separate table, we were still forced to clean up an unholy food mess that we didn't make. I don't blame the teacher for this. I would be pissed too if every single day there was a new mess that they just abandoned. I was upset because I was forced to deal with the consequences of it despite being uninvolved and distancing myself physically and hoping that would do enough. So naturally, I went and told the mess makers that I got yelled at and was met with the best possible response. An uncaring, okay, rung through, and in a moment of clarity, I cut myself from them entirely. I willingly became Hachiman because I had been burned too many times. I tried to find something genuine but was met with nothing but isolation. I found the nearest empty space in the lunchroom and drowned out the world with anime music and Ask Reddit threads about depressed people talking about their lived experiences. The typical high school experience. But there was a glimpse of help from the first friend group. The first day I did this, they offered for me to join them, but I was still wallowing in despair, so I said I was okay and that offer never came again. And thus began the cycle that turned me into Hachiman. Hikigaya Hachiman is a profoundly sad character, someone burned so many times that he turned to cynicism. His infamous nice girl speech thinly veiled the hurt that ruined him. He doesn't believe people can be nice to him. He doesn't believe anyone can be genuine. Every word uttered is filled with false faces framed against an empty smile. He became who he is in Season 1 as a coping mechanism. It was easier to build walls than to confront the hurt and work beyond it. A similar thing applies to characters like Yukino, who instead of cynicism turns to becoming a cold, unfeeling person. But the truth of the matter is that neither of them truly are that way. They both just want to find something genuine, to be loved. My love of Oregairu is much more rooted in Season 2 because it aired while I was hurt and alone. None of the people I considered friends came to save me from my solitude. But the one thing that kept me going was Oregairu. Honestly, I probably owe my life to Oregairu. Hachiman was the rope slowly pulling me out of the hole I dug myself into. Episode 8 in the infamous I Want Something Genuine scene saved my life. To see Hachiman break past the darkness that covered him into starting to search for something real inspired me. You can feel the strength and vulnerability it required for him to utter those words, but they are the true depth of Hachiman. Beneath all the cynicism and self-destruction was a boy who wanted to be happy, to find something real. Beneath all my cynicism and self-destruction, I wanted to be happy and find real relationships. Hachiman was my light at the end of the tunnel. Seeing a character I felt like was a mirror image of me break out of his destructive spiral helped me out of my own. It was still a process to get out, but I started making the first steps of finding something genuine. And eventually I found connection again. It was a struggle, but I remembered back to Hachiman and kept putting one foot in front of the other until I left that isolated corner for new friends. There's a marked shift in how I write about Oregairu after this event. The focus shifts to gratitude and a more reflective look at my connection with Oregairu. The writing shifts towards the future and towards improving myself. I start writing about my goals for myself, my growth as a human being, the list goes on. But the undercurrent still looms of the trauma it all inflicted. I grow and grow, but I could still feel the aftershocks. But then I went through my life on and on until 2020 when the final season aired. I wrote weekly episode posts about Season 3 of Oregairu that feel like a wonderful time capsule of just whatever was going on then. 5 years removed and I had changed. And I'm going to read it all to you as it is a pretty apt summary of me from 5 years ago. It's finally over, huh? So much has happened to me since I started watching Oregairu. I went through the worst time of my life throughout most of high school. I graduated and escaped high school to perform a hard reset when I reached college, and now I'm here, a junior in college on a Thursday afternoon after just getting a presentation finishing Oregairu. I wish I had made something bigger out of this event in my life, but instead I'm just sitting in my dorm room, alone, listening to music and writing this. It's something special, it's just another day in my life. And yet today marks the end of an era, the Oregairu era as I will be calling it. Probably the only point in my life I will define by an anime series, but one that warrants it immensely. Oregairu entered my life at my worst, and while I'm by no means at my best now, I'm infinitely better off than I was when Zoku started airing. I started watching Oregairu when I hit my darkest point in my life, and one that is responsible for so many of the traumas that I'm still dealing with today. I was alone. I had individual friends, but I felt like an outsider jaded by having to leave another friend group. I felt like a less cynical Hachiman. I didn't loathe high school, I just hated this suffering isolation. I blew my one chance at escaping it and then spent the rest of the time alone, drowning out the suffocation of being alone with music and erecting an impenetrable fortress around myself. But the one thing that kept me going was Oregairu, specifically the second season. What I saw was Hachiman, this one so jaded individual trying to open up to people and to find meaningful connections. Something I've been trying since to make an effort to obtain. Throughout the time I was alone, I longed for people I could let my guard down around and felt comfortable being around. If Hachiman could do it, so could I. It was a gradual process, but as time went on, I think I've made more of them, or at least attempted to. This isn't to say all the bad experiences of high school have gone away. They still exist and show their ugly faces every so often. But when I'm with people I feel comfortable around, I can forget my worries. That's bliss. As this fateful day approaches, I've had a lot of time to mull over Oregairu and all the characters that inhabit it. I've written numerous times about how much Hachiman I see in myself, and honestly the third season only feels like it's seeing more positive aspects. I try to be someone who's, if you need help with something, I'll be there. I may be awkward about the situation, but I will put forth my best effort and finish the task. In that sense, I also see myself as Yukino, this cold but really just incredibly awkward person who's trying to be better. Throughout this past year, I've been really trying to find my passion and pursue it. I've been writing infinitely more consistently and just trying to build myself a potential career as a writer. For the first time in my life, I feel like I have a sense of what I wanted to do with it. 2015 me was so lost. He was just trying to make it through the day, through the semester. Now look at me trying to plan for my future, and ideally one pursuing something I'm passionate about. I'm still awkward, I'll willingly admit to that. I try not to be, but I think it's just how I am no matter how you slice it. But at the end of the day, I'm trying my best to be better, and I think that's what matters. I try and grab a hold of my future to keep it with me. I'd be lying though if I stopped with just Hachiman and Yukino as characters I see myself in. I just see the most of myself in them. On a less positive side, I see some of Haruno in myself still. I think her saying "I can't get drunk" is a fitting line for me in the moment, as much as I probably hate to say it. There are still times where I feel like I can't fully let my guard down around people. I'm still fairly self-conscious about myself and my actions. My self-esteem is not the greatest. But I'm trying to ease myself out of that, even if it's just a bit at a time. I've made my writing more public to people in my sphere, and I'm trying to let people see this inner world of mine. Because what is seen is rarely the entire truth. I've always been best at conveying my emotions through text. I don't stumble over my words trying to say something simple, but with big emotional stuff, I'll still botch it. Hachiman and Yukino at the bridge is probably pretty accurate as to how I deal with stuff like that. I'll say everything that I think means the same thing, but I'll never directly say it. I can't sum up everything in so few words. That's probably why I type so many paragraphs to people when I text them. I wish I could just be normal sometimes, but I think this is just who I am. I preface most questions I ask with out of curiosity, like I'm asking for permission to have the question answered. I send one text with all my responses in it, like I'm writing an essay and have to cover multiple points. But most of all, I try to be sincere in everything that I say. I want to give out more of my genuine self to others. I'll fairly overtly describe it in my daily poems, but I'll never call it what it is. As of writing this, I'm almost certain it's undiagnosed depression. Too much of what I read lines up for it to not be, but it's also partially trauma from high school that I'm still trying to get out of me or understand better. I overanalyze myself in friend groups because I want something more, but in turn, usually make me feel more distance. I'm a quiet person, but it doesn't mean I'm a silent one. I'm just someone who looks for something genuine, but still not fully understanding what that may look like for me. I wish I could end this post with a whole "I'm all fixed now" statement, that the Oregairu era is ending with a brand new me and all his problems fixed. But that's not the reality. The Oregairu era is as arbitrary as an era as generation definitions. I'm better off now than I was in 2015, but I'm no perfect human. I'm just doing better and willing to let myself close the book on this chapter of my life. Will tomorrow look any different from today? No, probably not. Will I be a different person after today? After a time, probably, but now this is just me rambling about how much of my life I associate with Oregairu, even if it's not connected to the series. I associate Oregairu with this period of my life. It's intertwined with my life, whether it likes it or not. It's easily my favorite piece of art ever and will remain my favorite anime of all time, probably for all time. And honestly, I probably owe my life to Oregairu. Hachiman was the rope slowly pulling me out of the hole I dug myself into. I owe so much of who I am today to Oregairu, it's impossible to sum it up in a single post. If you dig far enough back, you can probably see Oregairu posts change from each stage of my growth. If I feel like emailing my high school, I may be able to get my college application essay where I wrote comparing myself to Hachiman. It's no understatement to say Hachiman was the biggest influence on my life. I've had influences from real people, but Hachiman hit so close to home because I was his age at the time. Now I'm older than Haruno, and yet Hachiman still is dating someone before I've even dated one person. But it was never about love for me. Hachiman helped me find what I wanted. I wanted something genuine, but he helped guide me on that path. Hachiman helped me make the connections I so longed for. Am I a perfect person? By no means. I'm still gonna mess it up so much. I'm gonna fumble through relationships, but seeing Hachiman improve has been the biggest influence on me. Hachiman made me see there was a light at the end of the tunnel, as long as I kept walking towards it. It wouldn't be an easy journey, but the results would make me feel better and have some semblance of what I want to do with my life. I genuinely have Oregairu to thank for saving my life and helping me make it to today. It's been a rough 5 years for me, but I'm glad I had Oregairu there to help me make it through it.
And now we reach 2025 and a decade since Oregairu Zoku, and to read all his writing back, I feel like a different person. The series will always hold a special place in my heart, but I no longer need Hachiman to remind me to improve. I've kept the cycle going and also read Haikyuu, a series that is so full of inspiration to live a full life that you should all read. It is the greatest piece of fiction ever created. The Oregairu era was to get me to the starting line of my own happiness. The Haikyuu era is to make the most of it. But while musing about all of this, I finally understood the true importance of high school anime. Beyond just being an easily applicable experience for everyone, it's for characters like Hachiman to exist. It's for the teenager who needs someone in their life to look towards to find their own happiness. It's to see the eternal struggles of high school laid bare and to find a character to connect to. It's to find role models to help us grow as human beings. All the quiet female leads in shoujo romance are a real person somewhere who's desperately searching for someone who understands them in a way that only a high schooler can.
We aren't all blessed with good role models in life, but there's always art out there to save us, to see us, to remind us we can grow, that we are love. For me, it was Hachiman who saved me by showing me that I could grow, that I could find something genuine. But for someone else, it could be Ishinomori from Honey Lemon Soda, it could be Taiga from Toradora, it could be Tachibana from Say I Love You, it could be Asa from Ikoku Nikki, it could be anyone. We all need someone to connect to, and I'm glad I found Hachiman. I'm glad he saved my life, and I hope Wataru Watari knows the effects his story had on people like me. And I hope for you, you can find someone to save you if you need that. Now, to add some last-minute meta writing, I still don't really feel like I did my personal connection to the series justice. I honestly don't know if I'll ever be able to. I can say Oregairu saved my life, but the nuances of that feel so much deeper. The depths of my connection to the series feel unknowable. I'm sure whenever I sit down and do a full rewatch, I'll see something brand new that connects with me. But for now, I just wanted to make something exist. I wanted to leave the tangible existence of my growth as a series and my love for the series that made me who I am today. I felt like in 2020, as the series ended, that I started to leave this era in the past, but it never felt quite bookended until I could finally put that thing out that encapsulated so much of what I wanted to say, even if I still feel like I've only covered a fraction of that. Either way, I'll never forget Oregairu and how much it changed me for as long as I live, but I think it's time to finally enter the Haikyuu era in full. Although judging by the life I've led in 2025, I've been in full swing for a while. And in the grand scheme of things, the Oregairu era was only 10 years, hopefully a 10th of my life. I have so many more eras to live through. But if you watched this far, I hope you can find some semblance of connection here. I made this video for myself, but if you can find something meaningful from it, that would be wonderful. I'd also love to hear about the anime characters that saved your life, or even just the ones that changed it.